Hello and welcome back to Sew the Stash. Today we're dealing with the green Love Heart linen. Quick recap for those people who have not yet caught up on the first video. I've got too much fabric in my stash. I've got this linen Love Heart fabric that I think is really cute. I saw this top on an influencer that I want to try and make. Already had a go at making it once. Tried to do it, didn't really work out. Done myself a little sketch to follow. And now I'm going to dive straight in to talk about the things that didn't work the first time around and hopefully I can fix for this time. It's all a bit short. I want it to land probably like the top of my hip, which is not that much further, but it's still like quite a bit further. Still another 3-4 inches. So I'm gonna add 4 inches. And then this guy, see how it's landing like in line with my, pretty much in line with my bust, which I don't love. I want it to be like in line with the bottom of my ribs, kind of my high waist, if you will. I guess maybe I'll go from like the underarm, and then I want it to be like there. So let's call it 8. And for those playing in metric, 20. And then if I'm going 8, then I want it to be like 7. I think that I like this shape here, but maybe I want to take it like a little bit further out, so it's even more scoopy. I think everything needs like a little bit of like an edge, and then I want the sleeves to also be like a little bit poof. Because I had been through this process once before, quite a few months ago when I tried to make it out of the pink, I discovered that I had these pattern pieces that I'd already traced off, but I wanted to make the changes that I was talking about when I was measuring. So I did basically the same process and I made those adjustments to the pattern pieces that I was tracing off. I used a bunch of different patterns. I took the neckline from one top pattern and half a sleeve from one pattern and another bit of sleeve from another pattern and the back panel from a different pattern. If I can remember to add all of the patterns that I used below, I will link them below, or I will at least provide you with some sort of reference, but I can't really promise that I will remember everything. Initially though, I cut the pieces with the little side panel still intact so that I could adjust it later and add it on and figure that out once I'd done all the other side seams. It turned out that chewed up a little bit too much fabric and I had to scrounge through the leftovers to find enough fabric for the neckline facings. But this is all a learning process and I have plenty of fabric that I need to get through, so I'm not too worried. And I think that with the little scraps, I might make something for my aunt, because I was texting her while I was making this top because I really think she would love this fabric because her favorite color is green, my favorite color is green, and yeah, I love my aunt, she's great. Finally onto sewing, which we all know is the best and most enjoyable part. Okay, just between you and me, I'm gonna do the boring bits and I'm gonna show you guys the interesting bits because I am my own editor and even I get bored editing my own boring stuff out. So I'm gonna save you the boredom and I'm gonna talk you through it. Maybe I'll show you a time lapse while I talk. I don't know yet. It's 9 PM on a Tuesday night. Just put together the facing, the front facing, which is cool. Oh, and the back facing. But then I'm gonna have to like overlock all this stuff. It's gonna be really boring. And I think that what I'm gonna do is also, because, hey, where'd you go? Because this fabric is so, it's quite delicate. I think I'm gonna do French seams on everything, which you guys should know how to do by now. And if you don't know, then go watch some of my other videos because I do talk about it there. But yeah, I'm just gonna whiz through this because really the process is sometimes less interesting. But also, that being said, if there's anyone out there who either is or knows of a good YouTube video editor, who's not too expensive, because I don't have that much money. Hit me up. I'm interested to know more about you or that person that you might know. Please. Please. Because I think the main thing that holds me back from making more videos is that I have to edit them all. Which I don't really enjoy as much because I have a full-time job. Anyway, I'm gonna put you on a time lapse. I'm gonna put myself on a time lapse for your enjoyment, for your benefit. And I hope you appreciate that. So let's get cracking. Lately I've been overthinking my videos and I'm a little unsure about what I want to be putting out into the world. Working full-time and putting out videos can be really challenging, and I also try to push myself a lot to make kind of more complicated and interesting stuff, which maybe I don't need to do. I'm not really sure. So if you have feelings either way, then please let me know. Do you want to see sort of regular sewing projects that you can just kind of have on in the background, or do you want to see more exciting and crazy stuff? After tidying up the front facing pieces, I put a little bit together and then I tried it on just to see how things were going. And it showed me again that I didn't really factor in my incredible Hulk shoulders, but I think I can deal with that when we get to the sleeves. And the fit is pretty good, but you can start to see that the neckline is a little bit wide. So foreshadowing, that is definitely something I'm gonna have to deal with later. Obviously the other element is how to deal with the little side panel bits, but we'll get to that all in good time. I can't really remember where I got up to the other night. Sleeves, that's where I got up to. So let's gather the top side so it's poofy and nice and poofy. I used this method that I'd seen floating around on the internet where you jam your finger at the back and to help it gather evenly as you put in the stitches that you're meant to do when you gather stuff. I don't know if it helped that much, but it was good to try something new. Then I did a super speedy French seam on the sleeve seam, and that got me onto figuring out the hard part, which was the little side ruffly guys on the side and how I was going to get those in. And because I'd done it once before, I thought that I knew what I was doing, that I would totally nail it, but it had been a few months since I'd made the other one, so I'd forgotten the process that I went through. But I started by cutting out the little bit that needed to be then filled back in. But before I did that, I decided to pin it and try it on to see how it would fit around the shoulders. I've just sewn the first bit of the French seam for the side seam. I just want to try it on real quick just to see how these armholes are going to do, and then if I need to make any adjustments before I finish doing this side seam, then I can do that. I feel like I can probably just trim open the armhole a little bit more. I think I have quite a bit of give with my sleeves, but it never hurts to just try on. I don't do this enough. I also just put my glasses on so I can actually see you in the viewfinder. This is how we're looking at the moment. So I think that the fit is okay. It's a little bit tight here on the shoulders. You can see it's like pulling a bit. So I think what I'm going to do is just open up. I'm just going to lower the depth of that, and that might help. Having the sleeves on might actually help as well, because that'll take some of that in. I like where the openings are landing for the little ruffly bits on the sides. The neckline is pretty cute. It's kind of pulling a little bit because of the fit on the shoulders, but overall, we're getting there. It's a little bit low maybe. It's a little bit low. Here you can see like the top of my bra, but I feel like once the sleeves are on, it might sit a little bit higher because it'll pull that up from there, and there'll be less tension sort of on this part. That's my theory. I don't know if it's going to work, but so far so good. I think the fit is a lot better than the pink version that I made, which was the test run. So I'm glad that I gave it a test run and didn't just cut into this straight away. I've decided that I'm also going to do like a contrast top stitch for this facing here, and then when I do the sleeve hem and the actual top hem, then I might use a bit of a contrast thread as well, just because I like that look. I think it adds like a little bit of interest. This video is a little 1-2 skip a few 99-100, but that's because most of it is following just normal construction. So I'm going to focus more on the more interesting bits, or what I think are the more interesting bits. I made some adjustments at the neckline and I put on the sleeves, and then I decided to do the button band facing because basically I was procrastinating the hard part, which was the ruffly guys. Since my machine markings only go up to 1 inch where the needle is, whenever I have to do a wider stitching line, I use a piece of masking tape. So that's what I'm doing here. The other bits of my machine are plastic as well, so those other little magnetic seam allowance guides don't work. And then once I had done that as well, I did a little bit of top stitching around the neckline with some green contrast thread that I had in my stash. I'm pretty sure I must have made a mistake with something, because in this time lapse you can see I am looking grumpy while also unpicking something as the sun sets. Sometimes I rush things and then I pay the price. I'm also texting my aunt about this cute fabric that I had that I thought that she would like, and I kind of realised halfway through this project that maybe I could have made something for her because she loves this colour. I might make something for her with the leftover bits. I don't know, let's wait and see. I'm not really sure how much time passed, another day or so, and it was finally time to face the little ruffly guys that I was trying to get in the side. I used my overlocker with the thread tension turned way up to gather the pieces to start off with, which is a trick that I also learned from the internet a little while ago. And it took me forever to figure out how to get these things in. I've put them in once and they didn't work, and yeah. Anyway, if 6 years of architecture school taught me anything, it's that a scale model is a super helpful way of figuring out something complicated. The first time I did it, I thought that I needed to make cuts that were horizontal to the thingy, but then what ends up happening is that there's not it doesn't end up in the right spot. So what I figured out from doing this is that I needed to make diagonal cuts at the corners. Kind of the same process as you might do if you're making a welt pocket, which I did make earlier in the year, last year, sometime, I don't know. All of these projects kind of blend into one. There was a lot of trial and error, but I managed to get there in the end through my little scale model process. And then I put the pieces in and I finished off those little panels with some top stitching as well after I had overlocked the raw edge. And then finally, it was time to make some buttons. I decided to go with some self-covered buttons, which I feel like I have made before, but not for a very long time, probably as a teenager with my mother. Anyway, got this little kit from Spotlight, picked a slightly larger size than I wanted to, but the benefit of that is that I could fit a whole heart on one of the buttons at a time, which was really nice. But then again, I was saving some of the good scraps so I can make something else for my aunt. Basically, with the little kit, it gives you a template for the size of the circle to cut out. You got to cut these things on the fold, and then you do a little bit of stitching around the edge, and you put it over the first half of the button, which is kind of the front piece, and you tighten everything up. I tied the bits of thread in a knot because I thought that would make it a little bit more secure. But basically then you just click the back part of the button on and voila, you have a lovely covered button ready to put on your garment. And this is where we ended up with the top. I definitely was impatient. My impatience took over and I tried to finish it quickly so that I could wear it to work last week, and then I obviously didn't address the drooping situation enough. And I also wanted to make this video and let you guys know that indeed I am sewing the stash, so that hopefully you are also continuing to sew your stash. I have not yet bought any more fabric. I feel like this is a project down, and then I'm going to get started on another one probably right now, which is very exciting. I had an idea. I had a brainwave. Anyway, I think that the vision came to life, but there are some issues with the fit. I always forget how broad my shoulders are. I feel like I added some extra room there, but it didn't really work out properly. I do love the sleeves, and I added a little bit of extra stitching here and there so that it looks a little bit more profesh, which I'm very happy with. I think I need to make this button at the top slightly tighter so that then the drooping situation will be fixed. I thought about bringing this up again, but I just feel like that's not going to actually solve too much of the problem. It's also a little bit harder to do. One discovery I had though when I was doing my buttonholes for these covered buttons, which you can see turned out quite well, is that I often end up with kind of messy buttonholes with my machine. But one thing that I usually do is just go with the default settings on my machine, but this time I shortened the stitch length a little bit and it ended up being a bit neater. I haven't yet finally put clear nail polish on the fraying bits of the buttonholes, but overall I think this turned out pretty well. I'm happy with my skills, but I'm excited for the next project, which is going to be sewing from a pattern that I have made before, so I won't have to think or do any self-drafting, which I'm very, very excited about. My hair is also growing. It's just freaking me out. And we got a new table, so you guys will see that in a second. What do you think? Let me know. I'm proud that I managed to get these side pieces in properly. I'm stoked. Let's continue to sew this dash. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.